What celebrity death saddened you the most? Mr. Rogers. Jim Henson, too early AMD, such a source of joy to so many. Eddie Guerrero, Viva la Raza. Leonard Nimoy. Alan Rickman. Steve Irwin. Sean Locke and Shane Warne were a big kick in the balls as well. Grant Imahara. John Ritter. Anton Yelchin. Leslie Nielsen. Naked Gun movies and Airplane are my favorite comedy movies and I keep rewatching them all the time. Chris Cornell. So talented, gone too soon and died so tragically. Heath Ledger. Norm. Sir Terry Pratchett. He and his works both made the world a better, more interesting place. Anthony Bourdain. I miss his snarky attitude. Chris Farley. Nothing like crying in front of your Christmas tree. James Gandolfini was an immense talent and people often forget how The Sopranos changed the entire landscape of television. His acting helped usher in a golden age of television that's still going strong to this day. Chester Bennington. Brittany Murphy. Robin Williams. I loved that man. Carrie Fisher. Alex Trebek. Mitch Hedberg. So saddened by his death. Really a warning against what addiction can do to someone. Phil Hartman. Lance Reddick. A friend talked me into seeing John Wick 4 and I really loved everything Lance had been in and was excited to go. Then he just passed away, which really saddened me as it was so unexpected. Carrie Fisher. I was gutted. David Bowie. Naya Rivera. Not her fan, but the way she died was really tragic. Thinking of her child left alone on that boat for hours looking for his mama hurts my chest. Christina Grimmie. Leslie Jordan. It was so shocking and out of nowhere. He was such a lovely man and I miss him a lot. Taylor Hawkins. George Michael. Selena Quintanilla Perez, Heart, Rose. Dolores O'Riordan. R.I.P. John Candy. Aaliyah. Tom Petty. Cameron Boyce. So young. Chadwick Boseman. R.I.P. Black Panther. Mac Miller. Gone too soon. Philip Seymour Hoffman. George Carlin. The world could really use him right now. Neil Peart, the drummer lyricist of Rush. Alexander Technoblade. Bob Saget. It felt very sudden and random and I was re-watching Full House and just watched the spin-off so he was very much in my mind. Eddie Van Halen. He provided the soundtrack to my teens and 20s. Bernie Mac. Patrick Swayze. MCA. Gilda Radner Rosanna Dana. John Denver. As a kid, I spent many hours singing along to his albums on the 8-track in my dad's car. Freddie Mercury. Phil Hartman. Whitney Houston. R.I.P. River Phoenix. Avicii. It was a delayed saddening too, not sure why, but it was few years after his death. I was listening one of his tracks in a car and it hit me hard. I had to pull over to cry it out. Prince, Purple Heart. Judith Barcy, voice of Ducky from The Land Before Time. I was still pretty young when it happened, so I don't remember it, but it's so sad. She and her mother were killed in a murder-suicide by her abusive father. They had even left him because of his abuse, but he found out where they were. She was 10 years old. This is a weird one, but Mikhail Gorbachev. He legitimately wanted a better world and chose to basically give up his power in return for a more free world. When he learned of the Ukraine war a few months before his death, his interpreter said he was psychologically traumatized because Putin destroyed his life's work. He honestly seemed like a decent man who wanted peace with the West. He seemed like the type of dude who would be really interesting just to talk to. I guess the reason it made me so sad was the fact that he got to see all his work undone just before he died. Amy Winehouse. She was so talented. I always remember her very public deterioration, getting scary skinny, wandering around at night barefoot with blood and bruises, and then get really sad. Stevie Ray Vaughan. Christine McVie. MF Doom edited all caps. Kurt Cobain. Lane Staley. Joe Strummer. A lot of years listening to his music. Kobe Bryant. Just a day prior I was watching his top 10 plays on YouTube and then out of nowhere heard the news that he died. It makes it even sadder that his daughter Jana was with him. Gord Downie. Lead singer of the Tragically Hip, and soundtrack to Canada. Scott Weiland Fall to Pieces. Betty White. Twitch and Moonbin. Lemmy. Stan Lee the comic book legend. Maybe a bit different to most celebrities, but Ken Block or Avicii. Total Biscuit John Bain. Well known in the gaming world. Phil Hartman for sure. And Norm. Alan Rickman. Kevin Conroy. Lance Reddick. Chadwick Boseman. Irfan Khan, Indian actor from Life of Pi and Jurassic Kingdom. Edit: I would like to add Heath Ledger as well. His performance in TDK blew my mind and I was like, why haven't I seen him in other movies? And then I checked Wikipedia and got to know the reason. Rick Mayall, Far Too Young. Luke Perry. I felt like a part of my childhood died that day. Disappointed face. I cried when Stephen Hawking died. Princess Diana. Everything about that night and the events afterward are burned in my brain. Uck. Dale Earnhardt Sr. and Chester Bennington. Composer, James Horner. His scores for Braveheart and Titanic got me interested in a completely new genre of music that I still listen to today. Lucille Ball. Norm Macdonald. There will never be a comic like him, ever. The glint in his eye and the shit-eating grin whenever he'd make a joke. Truly a legend. Losing him, Bob Saget, and Gilbert Gottfried in the same year was absolutely tragic. Leonard Cohen R.I.P. I know he was old, but I was such a fan. Chester Bennington, Chris Cornell, Betty White, and Trevor Moore. Core 4 for my music taste and sense of humor. Corey Monteith. He seemed like such a nice human being. Norm Macdonald. James Avery Uncle Phil from Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. That made me cry real tears when I found out that he passed away. That show was such a big part of my childhood. Robin Williams also broke me. Both deaths broke my heart and it still stings even though I never knew them all. Chadwick Boseman was rough. He was so young, so talented. Near the end there were so many Crack Panther jokes, but nobody knew he was even sick. People are just shit sometimes. Prince, big part of my childhood ripped away. Waylon Jennings. Bill Paxton. Splitting image of my dad, too. Coco the Gorilla. Tim Beiling, Avicii.